There are many big feelings that come up when you're a 7-year-old or when you're a 4-year-old. And there's even bigger feelings when you're the parent of that 7-year-old or 4-year-old, depending on what they're doing. And there was a point where Bowen was getting a bit out of control, or he was out of control. And, both Burgess and I knew that we think this is true with everyone. Your kids are a reflection or a result of how you behave, right? Your kids are downstream from your behavior. So however you behave consciously or unconsciously, your kids are drinking that up and learning, oh, that's the way to be in life. So when I wanted Bowen to change or shift, and I was not willing for me to change or shift, I kind of realized that wasn't going to happen. Like, there really wasn't a chance of him shifting the way he was acting or behaving without, me taking a very serious look at how I was behaving as his dad, because he was learning these things from me, consciously or other. And I often think about this because this is about, investing. What is at the center of investing is how we reflect and act and respond to our feelings. Or some people say how we manage our feelings or manage our emotions. But more so than anything is noticing that they're happening and that you don't have to act or react to them. And for me, having kids has been I don't know if I call it a lesson, but a way of me becoming a better person, a better human, a better father, a better son, a better husband, a better friend, based on how I'm behaving around my kids, right? Because if you've been in my world for any amount of time, you know that one of the things I look for is what's that one thing you can shift that changes everything else you want to change. And for me, that one thing that I've been focusing on is how to become a better father. Because if I can shift that and get better at that and be great at that and continue to be great and continue to be a lifetime learner, then all the other things, the husband, the money manager, the friend, those things will get better because they'll just come along. So with that, I put this theme together, and I'll reveal the theme in a second, but the theme always comes back to really, or where I get it from is how I'm reacting or acting around my kids and how I'm managing or noticing or reflecting my own big feelings. Hey everybody, this is RC Peck, and this is my weekend podcast. And the theme for this podcast is not a chance. There is not a chance that my son was going to manage his emotions better if I could not manage my own emotions better. And I like this theme called Not a Chance because I often hear people talk about how they want to become better investors. And I think, God, there's just not a chance that's going to happen. And I know every investment book that's ever been printed or recorded or ebooked or whatever is around becoming a better investor. And I think that's where every single investment book has gotten it wrong over the last 500 years. Do not try to be a better investor because you don't have a chance. Now, what you can do is find a strategy and figure out how to follow the strategy, which has nothing to do with you. So let me get back to that idea in a minute. But first I want to point out just what's going on with the U.S. stock market. So far on this coming Tuesday, I believe it's Tuesday, we will end the first quarter of the year. Gulp. The first quarter of 2015. I remember when the year turned 2000, I'm like, man, 2000. Now we're in 2015. Well, so far year to date, the S&P, not counting dividends, is up an amazing, whopping, huge 0.09%. And I put the red line there to represent, generally speaking, where the market started out at the beginning of the year. And you can basically see from maybe mid or late November, the market's been chopping above and below about 3% from that basically 2060 line on the S&P. So, we're going sideways. I will let you know when we're in and out of a mode change. If you are a subscriber to my club, I will make sure that happens. But the biggest thing I want you to take from this price chart is that red line that is moving up on a diagonal from lower left to upper right. That is the 200-day moving average. And generally speaking, and almost specifically speaking, if that is moving higher, things are fine. And don't get too caught up, which I know is impossible for a lot of people, on the day-to-day or the week-to-week. As long as we are in green light mode, as long as the overall trend is moving higher, then we're fine. There's not much to do. Now, the reason I know that is because I studied what really works in investing. Now, I didn't study it in college. I was actually an Asian studies major in college. You don't learn how to grow money or protect money in college or in your master's degree or in your PhD. Most of those, at best, are about making money, though a lot of those aren't even that. So in my basically 2-decade plus search for what really works in investing, it came down to 3 things. There's 3 things someone has to do, whoever they are or whomever they are, in order for their money to grow. The first is they actually have to be passive. Now, passive does not mean to check out and forget about your money for decades. It means to be passive. So I actually looked up the definition. And the definition of passive is accepting or allowing what happens or what others do without active response or resistance. So we're just going to not necessarily respond or react or have resistance to what the market is doing. We're going to be passive in that approach. Now, of course, there's nuances to all of these things, but generally you do not want to be actively buying and selling things because 300 years of stock market investing says you will be poor at the end of that cycle. The second thing that I learned is you have to automate. You have to automate. Do not believe for a second that on that day that you need to sell something because it hit a stop loss or because you think you should sell something or buy something. It's not going to happen. Your emotions are going to take over. You're going to be out of control. Not because I know you individually, but because I've studied humans and money, those crossroads, and you have to automate. I've done this with my kids' 529s. I finally got 529s for my kids because they finally changed the rules that you can make 2 changes a year. Completely set it up, completely automated it with market probability. I even set my kids up with Roth IRAs. That's right, my kids have Roth IRAs. My 4-year-old, my 7-year-old have Roth IRAs. By the time they're 20, they will have somewhere between $30,000 to $40,000 in their Roth IRA. And if they never touch it again, that thing over the next 50 years is going to double 8 to 10 times. That means when they hit 50 or 60, if they never touch that Roth IRA, which I am starting for them, their over 60 life will be completely taken care of. But I had to automate it both in the investment strategy and the structure and putting money into it. So you have to automate your approach. And the third is you got to manage your losses. So you'll notice that conventional investment advisors, whether they are independent financial advisors or big box advisors, they don't manage your losses. Now they may automate, but they're not being passive. I would call that something, I call it more apathetic to what's going on. Passive doesn't mean apathy. Passive means you just allow without kind of reacting, right? Without active response. So if you actually want your money to grow over time, it has to be passive, it has to be automated, and you have to manage losses, meaning you have to have a strategy that is part passive, part automated, and part manage losses. Now, the good thing is market probability has those, and the obvious trend has those. So you have 2 strategies that capture the 3 things that an investment strategy has to have. And that's really the biggest thing I wanted to leave with you this weekend as I was looking over my kids' IRAs, my 4 and 7-year-olds' IRAs, and noticing I already set it up. It is passive. Now they have to earn money, so they do chores around the house. They pull weeds, they take the garbage out, they do some cleaning. And as long as they do that, money gets automatically put into their Roth IRAs, meaning they already pay tax on it, but because they're below the threshold, that will never be taxed. And so when they pull that money out when they're 60 or 70, and there's tens of millions in there, because they'll probably add to it, that's because it was a passive automated system that managed losses. And that's what I want you to really sit with this weekend is the system you're following. Is it more passive? Is it automated? And are you managing the losses? And if you are, then you're in really good shape. So now the takeaway is really, I really do want you to stop trying to be a good investor. I spent the first part of all of my 20s wanting to be a good investor or a great investor. And there's just too many cognitive biases against us. Our brains are not wired to grow money. Maybe they will be in 1,000 or 2,000 years or 10,000 years, but they aren't today in 2015. So stop trying to be a good investor. And what you want to do is have a strategy that fulfills on making sure it is passive, making sure it is automated, and making sure that those losses are managed. This is just another step in helping you secure your portfolio and your future. Until next time, this is RC Peck.